So, this is a mess. I, 32 female, found out something awful a couple months ago, and now it feels like my whole family is crumbling. My sister, Emily, 34 female, has been married to John, 36 male, for 7 years. Everything seemed fine in their marriage until I noticed something off. Emily's best friend Sarah has been around since we were kids. She's like family, so none of us ever questioned how close she was with John. But I started seeing things. At first, it was small stuff, like how John and Sarah would sit together a bit too close during family gatherings, or how they had these little side conversations and inside jokes that Emily wasn't part of. It didn't sit right with me, but I thought maybe I was overthinking things. They were close friends after all, right? But then, I couldn't shake the feeling. Then the worst happened. One night, I decided to grab a late drink after work, and I saw them. John and Sarah, at a bar. And it wasn't just them hanging out. They were making out in the corner booth like teenagers. My heart literally dropped. I froze. I didn't know what to do. So I snapped a pic on my phone and walked out of there. I was shaking. I didn't know what to do with the information. I spent weeks torturing myself over it. Should I tell my sister and blow up her life? Or should I keep quiet and let her live in the blissful lie? I couldn't look at her without feeling this horrible guilt. Every time she talked about John or Sarah, I felt like I was about to explode. Finally, I couldn't take it anymore. I told Emily. I showed her the photo, and at first, she just stared at me like I had just destroyed her world. She couldn't believe it. She accused me of lying, of being jealous, of trying to stir drama in her life. But I just stood there, letting her scream at me, because I knew she needed to let it out. Eventually, she confronted John and Sarah, and guess what? They admitted it. They'd been having an affair for 6 months behind her back. Emily kicked John out and is now moving forward with divorce. And as for Sarah, she's out of the picture. I thought Emily would hate me, but she actually thanked me for telling her the truth. She said she would have never known and felt like an idiot for missing the signs. But now my parents are pissed at me. Like absolutely furious. They think I ruined their marriage and didn't give them a chance to work it out. My dad told me, sometimes people can move on from affairs, but you left her no choice. They're acting like I wrecked their lives. My mom even said I should have kept it to myself, and that Emily could have worked things out if I hadn't intervened. Now the family is divided, and it feels like I'm the bad guy for telling the truth. I can't lie, it's been really hard. Emily's been leaning on me for support, but now I'm on bad terms with my parents, and it's all just a mess. I thought I was doing the right thing, but now I'm questioning if I made things worse. So, am I the a-hole for telling my sister about the affair? Should I have kept quiet? Your parents sound like they're speaking from experience. Is there anything they need to tell you about their past regarding infidelity? It was up to your sister and her husband to determine how they were going to handle it, like go to couples therapy, take a break, etc. The end result is not on you. Imagine how hurt your sister would be if she found out years later, and that you knew about it the whole time. Something tells me that your parents already knew about it. Not the a-hole, and it may be they have intimate knowledge of moving on from affairs, given they're targeting you instead of the perpetrators. Not the a-hole. She deserves to know the truth. She is your sister. Once a cheater, always a cheater. My father was a true a-hole. My parents had a very messy separation and divorce that spanned over the period of about 10 years. Through that time, my mother was awarded alimony and child support. I was the only minor child at the time, as my siblings are a little older. He was also my health insurance provider and would play a game of taking me on and off his insurance, just to further mess with her. So just imagine a single mom raising me. At this time, she has cancer and, I assume, a lot of medical debt while she keeps visiting doctors and tries to afford all the prescriptions and chemo. She's paying for an attorney at this time. For the icing on the cake, she isn't getting a drop from the alimony payments that she was awarded, because even when threatened with jail, he isn't paying it. I'm figuring out adulthood now, and my father recently died. As my inheritance, he left my siblings and I with some land that we are selling together. My mom communicates with me that she would like a portion of the money from the land sale. This is his money, and he owes her. I don't know exactly how much he owes her, probably a lot, so that makes sense. Only I'm a bit frustrated for 2 reasons. Firstly, my mom is financially fine now. She remarried, and I know his money isn't exactly her money, but he has been providing for her. They just remodeled their house together, and she drives his Tesla for heaven's sake. Meanwhile, I'm at the point in my life where I just finished school. My partner just bought a house and we're trying to save to replace our windows that don't latch. We're also talking about having kids soon. I love my mom and I don't want money to come between us, but I think her bitterness towards my father is why she wants this money. Even his death hasn't seemed to end things between them. Secondly, this inheritance will be divided between my siblings and I, and my mother only asked me for a portion of it. I'm sure one of my siblings would help pitch in, but another sibling doesn't have a relationship with her and will most certainly tell her, through me, to F off. So, am I being petty that this wouldn't be an even split? What are your thoughts? This happened to my aunt and she made a claim against the estate. She didn't even have to sue to get it. It was that clear-cut. A lawyer just sent a letter and invoice on her behalf, and the executor acknowledged that money was owed to her. I have two granddaughters, Rowan, 32, and Rachel, 28. Rachel has been estranged from us for about 6 or 7 years. I recently found out from a mutual friend that she heard that Rachel is married with kids. I was shocked at this news because Rachel was always such an outspoken and free-spirited girl, and I also felt sorrow at not being in her life during her important moments. I reached out and asked her to come over for dinner for the sake of her kids and me and her grandfather. She was hesitant, but gave me a specific date and told me she'd come then. I knew that we were also holding a small celebratory dinner for Rowan then, but I feared that Rachel might refuse, so I agreed. I told Rowan that her sister may come, and she agreed. Rachel came over with her husband and our two beautiful grandbabies, Samuel and Serena, both 8 months. Rowan was present, along with their mother and stepfather, and also their father. The dinner was superb, and no one fought. I thought it all went well. However, the next day, Rowan called to tell me that she was upset about the dinner and felt that her accomplishments were minimized. She felt like we only talked about Rachel's career and accomplishments and her new family, and that she felt inferior at her own celebration dinner. Here's where I was the a-hole. I told Rowan that I understood where she was coming from, but that Rachel had come back into our lives after so long, and that she is now slowly letting us in, and I don't want to ruin it. I told her that her grandfather and I also bought her an expensive present, new Tesla car, and that should be more than enough celebration for a single career accomplishment, and that there's more to come, which means more celebration dinners for her. Rowan hung up, still upset, and now in her phone calls, she still sounds upset. Was I being an a-hole? Edit. My husband said that I should include why Rachel is so estranged from us, due to the a-holes. Rowan was going through a lot of stuff a few years ago, and her career took a hit. She recently has gained traction again. Rowan was really down and tried to seek comfort, and unfortunately for Rachel, she sought comfort in Rachel's long-term boyfriend. Although my heart broke for Rachel, at the time, we ended up unknowingly focusing our energies on Rowan's downward spiral, and Rachel felt neglected. Their mother ended up supporting Rowan's now dissolved relationship with Rachel's ex, and that's when Rachel checked out of our lives. It was pretty much the last straw, since Rachel had felt neglected her whole life. Though her relationship with her mother and father may be beyond repair, our relationship with Rachel seems to be mending, and she is talking to us more. I feel like you guys need to learn how to balance having two granddaughters and not just one. You were the a-hole previously when you focused on Rowan to the exclusion of Rachel, and now you're like repeating history? I don't think you've learned from the past. Yes, the a-hole, all around. You focused on Rowan after she did what she did to Rachel. Rachel agrees to come back, and again, Rowan feels neglected, knowing that she agreed to Rachel being there, and you focus on Rowan's hurt feelings. Your explanation actually made it worse. Rowan apparently always wants attention on her and her accomplishments, and you did it again by mentioning the car and the other celebrations. You are working overtime to appease Rowan when she is the reason for the estrangement in the first place. It doesn't even appear that Rowan has shown any remorse for what she did. She should have been glad that her sister even agreed to be in the same city, much less the same room with her. To be honest, I wouldn't be surprised if Rachel knew there was a celebration for Rowan and deliberately chose that day to steal the spotlight, and I am glad that she did. She deserves the attention after all of you have made excuses for Rowan's actions. Think about the effort it took for Rachel to be in the same room with Rowan and all of you, and then decide if Rowan should be hurt. The answer would be a resounding no. Rowan not only broke the girl code, Rowan broke sister code and bond. Yet you made excuses for what she did. There is no excuse for her actions. Now you are trying to appease her hurt feelings. She should be groveling at her sister's feet. You and your family need to take a step back and really think about how you treat the two sisters. If you don't make some serious changes, you will lose Rachel and her family forever. Hello. My 25 female, fiance, 26 female, and I have been together for 6 years, and last year we got engaged. My fiance's middle sister was really lovely when I first met her, but let's say she's the favorite child, and everyone will bend over to make her any favors. Everything she asks, she must have it. My fiance has 2 older sisters, and now we're going to focus on the middle sis. Sister 2, 29 female, let's say. Sister 2 is always babied by everyone. By mother, Sister 1, 32 female, and even other relatives. My father-in-law, though, my fiance's dad, thinks all this babying is not normal. Few examples I'll mention of Sister 2 is that she wanted a PC setup that cost over $3,000. But despite the fact she has a stable income, she didn't want to pay for it straight away and demanded other people pay for it. She'd always complain about how her sisters make money and should help her out by buying her PC. My fiance helped her along with Sis 1 and got her the PC. Now Sister 2 owes both of them $3,000, $1,500 to my fiance and $1,500 to Sister 1. It's been 2 years since the PC was bought, and the money has not been given back to the sisters, despite that being the original agreement. That the sisters will help, but she'll have to pay the money back, and that the PC is not a gift. And she said okay. Example 2 is when my fiance decided to propose to me. She did that with a very expensive ring. Sister 2 complained about the price of the ring my fiance spent money on because she thinks that money could go to fund her new studio setup. My fiance said proposing to me was more important than Sister 2's studio set, and that Sister 2 still owes money, so she shouldn't expect more. Have many more examples like these, but I'll mention the most recent one. Sister 2 wants to buy a Tesla car, which is obviously pricey. Fiance and I are planning to buy a house in September, and we already have our funds aside. Sister 2 expects fiance to give her money out of our house fund to help her buy a Tesla. Fiance was thinking about it, but I was not having it. Told my fiance she can't always give away money to her sister whenever she demands it, and that as a couple who's planning to get married and we now have our finances together, she should consult me on that stuff. I told her that her sister is spoiled and has never paid back a penny from what she's borrowed and refuses to even pay for groceries in her own house. I'd have no problem giving money to Sister 2 if it was for an emergency, but a Tesla car, a studio, and a $3,000 PC don't seem like emergencies to me. Fiance agreed with me and said she won't give her any more money. My mother-in-law then called fiance and told her she's heartless for not helping out her sister. Fiance told her that building a future with me is more important, and mother-in-law said that family comes first, and last time she checked, Sister 2 is fiance's family, not me. So, am I the a-hole for interfering with their family matters when it's not my place? Excuse me? What? Not the a-hole, OP, and your fiance should perhaps consider going to therapy to work on the situation your parents forced on her. Having a golden child in the family screws all relationships, and not only spoils one child, but also messes up the other's self-worth. The fact that your fiance even considered such a thing is a problem. And if her family thinks it's normal to do that, perhaps going low contact for a time might help fiance get her bearings straight. Not the a-hole. Your fiance's sister is a spoiled brat. The level of entitlement is sickening, and your fiance actually considering paying is terrible. And the fact that your fiance's sister has a job, yet refuses to pay for her own crap, is tragically comical. Okay, so a little background info. My girlfriend and I are both 26. We met in college and both have our degrees. She is the first and only person in her family to attend and graduate with a bachelor's degree, and she did it with zero assistance from them. They have always been really weird, insecure about it, and often make negative comments about college, education in general. She worked very hard and is now a teacher. Last weekend, we attended a family dinner at her oldest sister and brother-in-law's house. Their daughter, girlfriend's niece, just graduated high school, and the topic of her attending college came up. So my girlfriend encouraged her to start taking classes at the local community college. Eventually, brother-in-law looks to us and says college is too expensive and is just a place for rich kids to party. Most of the family, including her mom, nods in agreement. I just say something along the lines of, "Yeah, the cost of college has become ridiculous." My girlfriend adds that it's also a great place to meet people and tells them how we met our best friends in college. To which brother-in-law responds, "You don't need to pay 15 grand a year to make friends." Girlfriend insists she's learned a lot in college and would not be who she is today without it, and we move away from the topic. Later in the night, we're all playing an apples to apples variant game, and the topic of college gets brought up by brother-in-law again. This time, he's obviously been thinking about it and launches into a rant about how the most successful people never went to college. Specifically, Steve Jobs, Bill Gates, and Elon Musk, saying how you don't need an education to start a successful business. Brother-in-law has a window tinting, car wrapping business, and how he makes way more than my girlfriend without a college degree, so it's a giant waste of time and money. When he finishes, I laugh at him and say, "Are you really comparing yourself to Steve Jobs and Bill Gates? I didn't know tinting windows was more important than teaching kids." He gets angry and accuses me of being jealous of him because I wasted my time and money on college. I said, "Why would I be jealous of your business when a 15-year-old with an X-Acto knife and a squeegee could steal all your clients tomorrow? If college isn't important, then why do you need a degree to work at Apple, Microsoft, and Tesla? I guess they think it's pretty important. Also, they did go to college, specifically Harvard and Stanford. They just dropped out to start their businesses." Then I say to girlfriend's niece, "Your dad's right though. You definitely don't need to go to college to learn how to tint windows." All hell broke loose, and now everyone is mad at me, including my girlfriend. I feel like I am the a-hole for mocking his profession, but at the same time, I really felt like he deserved it, and I am tired of them making petty digs at my girlfriend and me because we went to college. Girlfriend thinks I just should have kept my mouth shut and should apologize to him. Am I the a-hole? Good God, the balls you have to say that in front of your girlfriend's family. Everyone sucks here, though. Everyone sucks here. He went out of his way to insult you, and you went and insulted him right back. Everyone sucks here, but I get it. He insulted your girlfriend, and you got the last word. He's a jerk, and I feel bad that your girlfriend has accepted his behavior, and her whole family dogging her out for going to college. They sound like a whole family of a-holes that are jealous that she did it all on her own. My wife and I are on a baby moon to a really cool town in the mountains of New Mexico. We are staying in a modern condo Airbnb, but it's right next to an Indian reservation, which is some of the most grievous, untouched nature I've ever seen. As such, we've had raccoons and skunks wander through the property many times. My mother-in-law and sister-in-law decided, without asking us, that they'd join us and found the condo right next door on Airbnb. My mother-in-law drives the only auto-driving Tesla I've ever seen, so I about fell over when I saw what had to be her car in the parking lot. Yesterday was their first day, and my mother-in-law spent the entire day reminding us how we don't make enough money to have kids and live in a proper neighborhood, and that I was selfish for not taking the job my wife's stepdad had offered. Then she berated my wife all day for her food choices. And to top it off, she wanted to argue about current affairs. We had wanted to hike, but my wife got sick, so we were completely stuck. At like 8 p.m., mother-in-law finally decided she was going to her Airbnb. We had just come in from the trash, and there was a skunk in the parking lot. I didn't say anything because I was terrified mother-in-law might stay longer. Mother-in-law left in like 2 seconds, and we heard a piercing shriek. I told my wife not to go out there because of the skunk. One of the permanent residents heard the scream and came out and was coaching my mother-in-law to stay calm, but from our balcony, it looked like my mother-in-law was backed against a wall with Pepe Le Pew staring her down. It was one of the funniest things I've ever seen, so I started laughing so hard. My wife asked me if I knew the skunk had been there, so I said yes, and that mother-in-law deserved it after she'd been such a pain all day. After a couple minutes standoff, the skunk got bored and wandered off into the darkness, and mother-in-law didn't get sprayed. My wife is really mad at me. She acknowledges that mother-in-law overstepped, showed up unannounced, and was rude all day long. But I shouldn't have gotten revenge using a potentially rabid and definitely smelly animal. Was I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. Good on you. She definitely overstepped her bounds. Too bad she didn't get sprayed. I think your wife is the a-hole. A baby moon is for the two of you to enjoy being alone as a couple before the baby gets here. Your wife's inability to stand up to her mother ruined the vacation for you. It's selfish of her to think that the trip was not for your enjoyment too. I say this as a mother of a butt-ton of kids, who also went on a baby moon. Yes, pregnancy is hard and we want to relax, but the dad is also transitioning. He needs to relax too. Of course, mother-in-law is the a-hole, but typically the wife would have told her no. Also, the skunk is the a-hole for backing down. But definitely not you.